financial stress can impact all aspects of our health. It impacts our sleep. It impacts our mental health. It impacts our physical bodies, our relationships. It impacts our productivity. So this is a personal problem, but it's also a business problem.
Welcome to the Wealth Podcast, Off With Your Coat, a podcast on women's health and wellness where we flip the script and ditch the surface level chatter. We need to ask the real questions. Let's get back to storytelling and back to basics to help us uncover how to set ourselves up for true health and wellness and pass it on. I'm Cat Duff, founder of GenWell, the women's health advocacy brand building wealth, the intersection of health and wellness. Some days it's me and a doctor, coat off, talking about what really matters. No fluff, no filters. Other days it's East meets West, trading tools, not punches, to help move women's health forward. We're building generational wealth. Come with us. Coats off, let's go. Hello. Our guest today is Nicole Connery. She serves as a financial strategist and lifestyle designer, which sounds amazing. She helps busy, high-achieving women invest in themselves, reclaim their time, and master their finances. Nicole, I'm so happy to have you, and I'd love for you to just give a quick little intro as well.
Thank you, Kat, and I'm so thrilled to be here with you and excited for our conversation. Well, as a little girl, I was always called the Energizer Bunny and just had a ton of energy and was just so curious to really understand the world and human behavior, and really saw as a very young age kind of the power of choice, and especially preventative choices in the areas of health. And so this really set me, since as a little girl, down this path of understanding health and finances. And so I bring a background as a CPA and with 15 years of business transformation experience, but really through my lens as being a patient and as being a practitioner, as well as being a mentee and a mentor. So I'm not just somebody that has read a bunch of books or studied, although I have. It's really through my lived experiences of experimenting on myself, and also through my own human experience of going through struggles, hardship, celebrations, joy, and just couldn't be more thrilled to be with you today.
Yeah. So we always start taking your white coat off. You are a founder. You founded The Wealth Designer, which is super incredible, and I can't wait to dive into it. But we always start off with more of that like really personal story of health. Financial stress, financial health is so tied to wellness, especially for women. It's like one of the number one drivers and stressors for us. And so I'd love to hear from your personal experience. What was one health experience that really shocked you as a woman that you weren't prepared for?
Yeah, and it was really because I was operating as a slave to money. So absolutely have experienced the financial stress and impact on our bodies, and was really ignoring the wisdom of our body, the most advanced technology that we have. And I was working in a job, and now looking back, it's a little bit funny because it's like I had no sunlight. I was distancing myself of social connection. I was not getting enough water, not getting enough sleep. I was not focused on my mental health, was really not even including myself in the equation of my life or even on my to-do list. I was just overworking. I got caught up in the trap of someday I'll be happy when I reach this certain milestone or climb the corporate ladder, and really focused in professional services. And so when I was working very early in my career, especially this reference of proximity, we don't always know what's normal and what's not. It's like we're almost like we adapt to that behavior. And as a young professional wanting to really prove myself in the workplace, I just like bought in to this is like the cultural norms. This is how you're supposed to work. This is how you're going to prove yourself. And I was just over giving to the point where I was getting really chronic headaches and migraines. And it actually landed me into the ER because I remember it was a very, very stressful time. And I was at my prior relationship at the time, we were going through some stress at home. It was like the culmination of this perfect storm, and was under a big deadline at work with a public company financial filing, and was not taking care of myself. And I had gone to the doctors many times, and doctors just kept telling me, headaches are so complex. Oh, headaches can be caused by so many different things, to the point where they recommended I go see a neurologist. I went to see a neurologist. We did a brain scan to rule out, like, you don't have a brain tumor, thankfully. But the doctor had just prescribed me a pharmaceutical and said, you'll have to take this for the rest of your life and you won't be able to get pregnant. And so
Oh my God.
less than 5 years into my career, in my early 20s, I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to do this, but what other solution really exists?
Right. The extremes. Everyone's about the extremes.
Exactly. And I do applaud one of the doctors that I saw, like as I went through my journey and met with many different medical professionals. One doctor did start to make this correlation around, like, is there stress at home, or do you have any additional stress that you're facing? So she was starting to nod at, is there some other factors contributing to the headaches? Now I understand in hindsight that it's the body speaks to you, and I was such a people pleaser, and I was holding on to so much expression that was not being released, and my headache was just like all in my head.
Right.
I was not in my body. I was just like out there grasping for everything else. And so ultimately that sent me on a journey where I really started to understand the body and the mind-body connection, and I was able to heal myself.
So tell me about the healing process. Was it just getting out of your current job, your relationship? Like, how did you where did the headaches end?
Yes. Well, so it really, when you start to like seek solutions externally and you're just not finding the answer, you're not willing to accept maybe somebody that you perceive as an expert, but you sort of know, like intuitively within yourself, like, that's not really true for me. I don't really believe that. I'm not going to take a pharmaceutical. I'm not against mainstream medicine and pharmaceutical. It has its place for sure, but I like to explore all options. And I always would love to start natural if possible. So when I really turned inward, it was like, let me do some of the self-work. And it really just started by being honest with myself. And so releasing some of that like pent up energy, like journaling, scripting, tapping, emotional freedom technique. There was just like so much that had been like suppressed, and our body holds so much energy from all of these experiences, childhood through traumatic events and through, even COVID has been very challenging for all of us, significant change. Our body, whenever we get into a moment where it feels like I'm not safe and this is too much for me to handle, our body kind of shuts down. It's our nervous system. And so I really first had to find safety within myself. And so then slowly I started to plant the seed. I wasn't like, I'm going to leave this job. I did eventually end up making a pivot within the same company to do something different that felt more aligned, that felt more fun and joyful, and an area where I could have an impact. And I really started just through that awareness to see, I need to start making some shifts here. There's no one going to come and like prioritize me.
Right.
I need to do it. So that's really where it started.
Yeah. What would you say to young women who are feeling stuck in their current jobs and maybe are feeling that anxiety? I certainly felt that in my 20s, just running myself into the ground, from day to night, and just really never addressing it. But what would you say to young women that are now feeling stuck in a job where they can make some of those shifts like you did? Are there any sort of tips that you can share?
Absolutely. I would say like own your value. And I know that's just like so easy to say but hard to do. And how I recommend doing that is really change your reference proximity. So I have always believed that all we need is one person to show us what's possible. Sometimes it could be somebody on social media, or it could be somebody that maybe is how they flow through life, how they're really maybe living, or their values. And it doesn't necessarily have to be one person, but you can maybe just start to observe and see, like, is that person really happy? Is that person like operating in their integrity? Are they really joyful? Do they prioritize their friends and family? Are they passionate about their health? Like, depending on what your values are and what's really of interest, I think it's starting to change like your reference points, because we're brought up within our family and our communities, and that's what we think is normal. And then as we start to expand and see and really be unapologetic to believe what you want is possible. And there's a reason why you're having that little whisper that's kind of saying like, go this way, or oh, that's of interest to you. Like, follow that and trust that. And of course it can be scary. It's not like, let me quit this job today and go do that. Like a lot of people do say that, burn the boats and believe in yourself and go try that. I'm a little bit more of the mindset being like energetic, sensitive.
Like, I need to pay my rent today. So yeah.
And planting the seeds, right? And taking calculated risks. So I think first it's like maybe just being aware and also asking the question, but owning that women add so much value that I think we diminish it. We think we need to try so hard. Of course, there's like having a strong work ethic, going above and beyond, but not at the expense of our health and our values and what's really important to us.
Yeah. We were just chatting with Dr. Hui Chen, the acupuncturist, and she said something so compelling. She said, women can have it all, just not all at once. And that was so just stunning to me of, okay, we constantly say, well, we can't have it all. We can't have the perfect job and the perfect family and all of this. And social media tells us otherwise. Everyone's gallivanting around and somehow able to do it all when they actually aren't. And so you were actually that person for me when I was postpartum with my daughter this go-round, who was helping me kind of understand, like, you can have it all, but just not at once. And so Nicole and I met. I was postpartum with Zoe, who is now almost 2, and we met at music class. And I think for the first, like, couple of months postpartum, neither one of us formed a sentence, but we knew what each other was saying. And I think part of what I was saying to you was, I need some fucking help because I felt like, sort of my postpartum period coincided with my job shift to being an entrepreneur. And I felt like I was just drowning in this abyss of time and trying to understand values and like this new financial venture for myself. And you were just that bright light to say, okay, well, we have to tap into basics and start to structure that. And that's why I wanted to have you on. I think you are just such an amazing woman in the way that you're approaching this lifestyle designing, this idea where it's not just finances, but helping women to uncover and unlock that abundance across all. So I think we can dive into finances first and then maybe talk more about the lifestyle and your specific approach to all of it. But what is the connection with finances specifically and women's health?
Well, first, Kat, you have been such a bright light in my life. And so thank you. Thank you so much through those early postpartum days, just to have like your warm heart and truly an embodiment of a wealthy woman and just woman supporting women. Like,
thank you.
You are the embodiment of that.
I'm so glad that you could understand my language in that time.
Absolutely. Well, and I think we've connected over this. Like, finances can be very personal. And it really comes down to feeling safe and secure. And finances and money can have so many complex meanings. And so much of it is deep-rooted in how we were raised or social programming. And so much of this is unconscious, of course. If we knew, we would obviously change it.
Right.
And what we don't realize is that it does kind of sit beneath the surface of our body. And it can, if we're feeling stressed about our finances, which PwC did a study and has done it for about 12 years. And so the recent study back in 2023 surveyed almost 3,700 of our employees. And really what they found is that financial stress can impact all aspects of our health. It impacts our sleep. It impacts our mental health. It impacts our physical bodies, our relationships. It impacts our productivity. So this is a personal problem, but it's also a business problem.
Yeah.
This is a leadership problem. And the World Economic Forum has also studied this. The World Health Organization has studied this. They've included finances as one of the social determinants of health. And of course, basic needs like housing and food and security. And luckily for many of us, we are very fortunate that we don't have to worry about basic needs. However, it can almost unconsciously, we think that our boss or our company or our business is our source of money. which then can unconsciously sort of manipulate our behaviors or have us think, oh, I need to, win my boss's approval, because if I don't, I could get fired, and then I could lose my job, and then I won't pay my bills. And you follow that through line, and that causes I won't be able to feed my family. And so what that does is our body, our nervous system, the way we're structured is we actually set off alarms in our nervous system when we have a perceived threat. And all filtered unconsciously, of course. But then what happens is when we're in fight, flight, or freeze, we actually then contract and we shut down. And so many of us are operating through the world not even in our bodies, and not even connected, and not even open to the awareness that kind of is available here now. We all, and David Hawkins studies this through the scale of consciousness, there's energy fields that are extending out, and they can measure at 8 to 10 feet beyond our body.
Oh, wow.
And likely more, but that's just the technology today that really measures it. And depending on which frequency you're vibing at, different insights are coming in. So what happens is when we're in stress and when we shut down and think that we're not safe and we won't be provided for, and we're unconsciously in that fear of I'm going to be homeless and in that poverty or scarcity mindset, it really pays the toll on our health in all dimensions of our life.
Yeah. Are there specific aspects of finances that cause more stress over others? Is it I need to be making more money, the competitive aspect, or is it the budgeting part of that, or is it really just individual based?
This is such a great point and question. I think it really starts at the root of a lot of the work that I do with my clients is the interior design, because then that is a mirror for your external reality. And often it starts because we think there's a perceived threat around, I'm not clear on my finances, or that is too complex for me.
Yeah.
Though that's not my responsibility. So we avoid it. And any time we may avoid or we outsource or we think that it's not within our control, we feel powerless. So there's all these very dense emotions which then stay trapped in our body and keep us shut down and keep us stuck. And then we're not even our energy fields are not open to actually tune into oh wow, that person does actually want to help me, or I can trust that person. Even though I'm feeling the sensation in my body, I can ask for that promotion, or I can seek out this opportunity. And what many studies have found is the productivity impact. So when we're stressed or when we're in anxiety, we can be in this hamster wheel, and we can be in this loop. And I speak from experience of sometimes we're not focused on really what matters. We can be so on hypervigilance of on guard of let me protect versus okay, I'm safe, I'm grounded, I'm here. And then what's the next strategic right action?
Right. You're almost sort of just looking for who's talking about me, who's not got my back, versus coming from a place of, oh, wow, I have all of these wonderful mentors or people to support me or guides to help me work through finances.
Absolutely.
It's coming from that, a place of confusion probably, and just what you were saying earlier of just the not wanting to dive into it.
Exactly.
How does it differ for women and men in terms of financial security and fears, do you find?
Well, I may start with how we're all connected, because I think for men and women, we all are humans and we all have a physical body.
Yeah.
And how the body works, I think we're all triggered by our nervous systems and our electromagnetics of just our structure, our cellular, kind of our cells are always listening, the epigenetics of how then that is expressed and how it can then cause disease. For women specifically, the difference is that women were often told, you don't have access to capital. You're too much. It's this social programming, which then of how we as women are mostly, especially if you're really in your feminine embodiment, you can be more energy sensitive. And so you can feel more. And then in a society where we're told to kind of shut down or stay quiet, or you're not invited to this table, or let's have this conversation about something that really doesn't matter, to kind of keep women out of actually being in power with finances, I see that's where it manifests more in the physical body and in disease, because of these really dense emotions and energies of shame, hopelessness, which leads to depression, or this chasing outside of me, taking on everyone else's energy of this anxiety and spiral, like that takes us out of our own power of being in our own bodies, of having our own centered, grounded choice.
Yeah. It's also that constant chase of we still aren't making as much as men. And that is a fact. And I actually did this exercise at work a couple of years back where, we would ask about salaries to other women, but no one was asking the men. And I'm like, well, what the fuck is that? How is that helpful to us if we don't know where the other point of entry is for salary, compensation, et cetera? So I started asking guys, and it was interesting because women, when you would ask, they would share. They wouldn't come to you and share if they weren't prompted. Whereas the men, I think out of 5 guys that I asked, 2 of them would share, the others wouldn't.
Interesting.
So fine, if we're just staying with women, I think that's something that can be so powerful is we need to share what we're making, how we're making it, how we got there. Like that is so disempowering for us to sort of gatekeep that information out of fear of, oh, she's going to be making more than me and it's going to, hurt my feelings or like it is such a powerful tool. And I'd love for you to talk about how we can use that as sort of a tool in our toolbox to make more money or to sort of get to the next step in our career.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I think that's part of the conversation. Women are left out of the conversation for fear and scarcity and this competition. And so we're not talking about it. Money has such a stigma around, don't talk about money. There's so much like shame or inadequacy, or maybe you make a lot and you're like afraid of like, you have this guilt around money. So could not agree more that we need to bring it to the forefront. And I also think this is where the work that I'm really passionate about with serving women of feeling clarity and confidence in their financial decision making so that they can really feel empowered and confident in the choices that they're making. And by sharing like what your revenue or income portfolio looks like, it gives someone else an idea. And I think kind of step 1 is for women to enter that conversation. It's understanding, and it's really just a choice. It may sound like this is super simple, and it's because it is, but you have to decide, are you going to live in abundance or are you going to live in scarcity? Because if you decide to filter your world through, and of course nobody would ever make a choice to live in scarcity, but there's a pre-decision that you have to first become aware that maybe I'm operating under beliefs or circumstances or behaviors that weren't even mine, that I just adopted and I caught, right? I know we're both mothers and beliefs are kind of caught, not taught. We model the behavior in which we grew up around or maybe those that we see. And so it first comes with a choice. I'm going to make a new decision and I'm going to filter my life through abundance. Because I think women that are able to share believe and know there's space for all of us. We're all infinitely resourced and we're infinitely abundant. There's so much access to opportunities and resources. There's so much space for everyone, men and women. It's not like if you get a position, it takes away from someone else. That's a scarcity way of thinking. So by sharing that, it's actually, when you see that, for our listeners, when you see that, it's actually Gabby Bernstein, and she was influenced by Abraham Hicks. She calls it driftwood. Believe that, celebrate that. Believe, oh my God, she can do that. That means it's coming closer to me. That's in my field. That means that I'm resonating at that level. That is just a sign and a mirror for you to know that it's possible for you too. I think where we get caught sometimes in maybe women not supporting women or not building other women up is where we think, oh, if she has it, that means I can't. And it's just as easy as changing that belief of like, I'm no longer buying into that. Because that's the illusion. That's the fear. And that's what keeps us like fighting against each other and gossiping and thinking of lack versus like actually powerful women coming together. And you're such an amazing example of that, of like women supporting women and cheering other women on.
Thank you. I mean, that's, our whole thing with Gen Well is women do not storytell. They don't talk about, yes, we gab all day long. But are we talking about the real things that matter on a consistent basis and sharing things that could help boost us? Not in a networking event, not, at something that is a formal affair, but just sitting down, having a cup of coffee with a girlfriend and just saying like, how much fucking money are you making recently? Like, let's talk about it, because I'm feeling, this way at work and I need a little bit of support. And we do ourselves such a disservice, whether that is, in finding the parallel with health and finance, we do ourselves such a disservice in not sharing information fluidly.
Right.
And so I love that you're connecting women on that level. If we flip over to sort of the habit side of things with finances. So we focused on the career aspect. With spending habits, and especially, younger women in your 20s, like, it's very hard to save money. Mm. And I'd love to know, in terms of like spending habits, if you have any tips on, if women are in debt, or if they are using spending as a type of therapy, for example, and what's a good guideline or a parameter for women to start saving and to spend wisely?
Absolutely. It's a great question. And what I always recommend is pay yourself first. Mm-hmm. Even if it's just a small amount, you are building the habit, and you're like signaling that I matter. And you're balancing this juxtaposition of like what I want like now versus what I really desire most. And what you likely will desire most is true freedom and in time and ease and health and joy. And so it's this short term, like, yes, give yourself that pleasure. Yeah. And I love beautiful things. Like, I love beautiful places and luxurious products. And it's this toggle between, you can have both. And it's really prioritizing what really matters to you. And do you value security? Do you value your health? And so what I often do with my clients is we actually will do an audit coming of looking at your calendar and also looking at your bank statements. And we'll go through and we'll actually highlight, because it's interesting. My dad would always joke when we'd be out shopping with my mom, and he'd go on to like the Bank of America portal and be like, if say my mom wasn't answering the phone, he'd be like, follow the money. So we'd go on Bank of America and like see what was the most recent charge. It was so funny, but it's so true, because when you follow the money, when we look at our bank statements, it will give us patterns. And it will show us trends, because where we're spending our time and where we're spending our money is just a reflection of what we value and what we desire. So if you looked at mine, you'd see a lot around education, a lot around health, and a lot around experiences.
There has to be some fashion in there.
Yes, of course. Rent the runway plug. Of course, beautiful things. Yeah. And of course, also off the top, investing, savings, a financial stability account. I don't really like to call it an emergency fund, because I do believe in the energetics, and not to be woo-woo, but it's sort of like we can label it and give meaning to whatever we want. So I like to have financial stability. So
I like that. I like that.
Instead of basically nodding to like, we're going to have an emergency, right? Like, yeah, of course things pop up. And so then I'm not going to have this like, eek, how am I going to pay for it? You have this account. It's not invested, so maybe it's not earning as much of a return, but you have access to it. Another point that you made is being aware of, are you spending to fill like a quick dopamine hit and a quick rush? And like, that's fine, but also just catch yourself and be aware of like, is it derailing your goals? So if you sort of set up your financial structure around like, am I hitting certain savings, investing, debt pay down goals, and then you put just in a separate account discretionary spend, give yourself that freedom to spend it on whatever you want. Yeah. We all work very hard, and you earn to be able to enjoy yourself. And if you are investing it back into yourself, which could be a beautiful meal with friends, beautiful clothes, a spa treatment, taking care of your health, that then pays dividends in all aspects of your life. You're feeling more energized. Like, we just invested in new bedding because I know how important sleep is.
Sleep hygiene.
Like get into bed and have that like really luxurious bedding. It's only you really know about what you value and what you want to prioritize. But what I would say is, if you're conscious, or if you maybe in the moment like aren't on like not consciously spending, once a month, just make a date with yourself and just take a quick peek at it. It doesn't have to be heavy. It doesn't have to be hard. Don't shame yourself. You know, you become aware, and you can make a new decision and a new choice the next moment. And also, don't wait. Just if you have debt, don't wait to start investing. I think you said that in your question, which I think is so profound, because often many financial advisors, which I'm not a financial advisor, although I do have my CPA, this is not financial advice, financial education, and in my own personal experience. But don't wait, because part of investing is that compounding interest and time in the market. And many financial advisors may not see you until you have at least $1 million in investable assets. And so there's so much education of what you can be doing now, even if it's something very simple, make sure you understand it, but don't wait until you have no debt. Because you're missing out on all this time in the market where your money can compound.
Okay, that's a great tip. And just that baseline for a savings account, a high yield savings account?
Definitely. And I typically recommend industry averages like at least 3 to 6 months of your monthly operating expenses. But this is really where it comes down to customizing. Do you feel, and your partner, if you share finances or if you have your own, do you feel comfortable with that? Or are you somebody that's maybe a little more risk adverse and you would feel more comfortable with 6 to 9 months or even 12 months? It really comes down to your own personal kind of comfort and tolerance level. And also there's so much uncertainty, but are you in a pretty stable job? Do you have access to capital? Do you have other ways that if something came up that you could cover it? And is it just a cash flow timing perspective? But definitely when I recommend with my clients as they're working with their financial advisors is really looking at the overall asset allocations kind of across all your buckets, but definitely having a piece that is, yes, it can be earning in a high yield savings, but that you have direct access to, that it's not locked up, that you can't touch it for a long period of time. You definitely want to have some liquidity to tap into.
Okay. That brings me to my next question of when you were talking about, I think, your parents and their behavior. So my husband and I share finances, and this comes up a lot, right? It's why are there 75 Amazon boxes? And I'm like, because it's my whole mental scroll, the mental load is now here in real life, where it's all the things for the kids, food, there might be one little thing in there, or books, or whatever it might be, toilet paper. So if he wants to not wipe his ass for a week, then he can handle it. But I was actually talking to my therapist about this because she was mentioning behavioral economics, and it's so emblematic of our values. And when you are sharing money with your partner, you have different values. You have overarching, hopefully, similar values, within your life, but you may have different spending habits and value things in a different way. And so if that is, for example, the amount that you invest versus liquid, if it is, time versus experiences, safety, all of that, how do you find a healthy middle with all of that?
It's a great question. And I think depending on who you ask, you'll get a lot of different responses. For me personally, we have done a lot of work and conversations to get on the same page and that we're reading the same book, right? Because you can be in this book and I could be in this book and we think we're living our life. For me, because I marry so much of lifestyle design and choices with finances, for me, I'm we have to get on the same page quickly with this. And it took a couple years of being married to really start having some of these conversations because we both bring different perspectives, values, meaning to money. If you even just sat down with your partner and said, how do you define money? How does money make you feel? Do you feel confident in earning money? What behaviors did you see from your parents that you thought was positive, or maybe you saw that you might want to make a different choice? Personally, I've learned a lot from my upbringing, and I think my husband has as well. And so we both have come to the table of being let's just throw it all out there, because once you can look at it and actually have a conversation versus if you're just avoiding or yelling. And one thing that was very important to me that I noticed very early on in my relationship was that there was never any guilt about spending, about money. And if that did happen, I feel I would have had just a direct conversation. There's been other direct conversations that I've had to have, but especially we have a joint pool of money, and then we each have some of our own money. Because I like for some things, especially if a gift for him or investments that I want to make, like I'm not asking for permission.
Right.
I'm a grown woman. I want to
Right.
be able to have my own choices.
Wait, actually, a really quick, funny tangent. You know Stassi Schroeder?
Yes.
I love her. But she, like the GRWM on Instagram or social media?
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Well, it's Get Ready With Me. But I also thought it was grown woman. She thought it was grown woman. So every time I see that, I'm like, yes, female empowerment, grown woman.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Sorry to derail you. Continue.
No, you didn't. That's so funny. Yes, because I think there's an aspect of, you hit upon this, like women carry the invisible load. And the way that I think our brains work is we see everything. Men sometimes don't see the same things that we see. We see of exactly what you said. I so resonate with that. Like all the stuff our children need, all the food, the gift, right? For like the upcoming event, the party you're hosting. Oh, the kids need a new fall wardrobe, or even just personal choices that you're making, household supplies.
And toothpaste.
Yes, so that's amazing. Good for you. You're even taking care of your husband, health, right?
Yeah.
And so there's so much. So I think sometimes it's just bringing awareness. And I don't have like the stats offhand, but I know there was a study done that when someone knows like the amount of effort that went into something, they can sometimes appreciate it a little bit more. So what I started to do with my husband was actually like prepare for our monthly financial meeting. And I would like map out like, these were some like big ticket choices that we made, and I'd ask him to prepare as well. And so as we started to bring awareness and look at things together, and we'd have to sometimes like at the beginning hash things out, now it's become a much more like enjoyable conversation because we're more and definitely locked in and on the same page.
Yeah, and you know what's going into that versus like, oh, did you just like throw $1,000 at something? And yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in terms of investments overall for women, is there like a good starting point, or is there something that when you're working with clients, is there like a first question that they always ask?
Yes. Well, and again, not financial advice, but like if you look at the information online, industry sort of standard is like to invest at least 10%.
Okay.
To get something in an investment vehicle. It can be very simple, that is just earning a return, because you will never be able to save your way to true financial independence.
Right.
You have to have your money be working for you. And that's a concept that I work with my clients a lot on, is I know I was like a real slave to money. I was all about like time and trading my time for money. And I also was trading my time for my health, my time for my happiness. And so it's making sure that you have your money working for you. And now as I've become more aware of it, it's looking at different investment opportunities of where can I be an owner outside of maybe just traditional like stocks and EFTs and investment vehicles. But so paying attention to like first getting really clear on like where am I at within my finances, and is there like a level in which I have to just get like organized. Let me get it all down on paper. Let's get aligned. And then can I maybe get a little bit more complex? And there are certified financial planners that will do a fee-based meeting. So they don't necessarily, they are your fiduciary. So that's one thing definitely to look at as women are coming to me and looking for investment advice, because I can only speak from my own personal experience. I'm not a certified investment advisor or planner, and so I always recommend like upskilling yourself so that you can be having very educated conversations and be asking the right questions.
Yeah.
So really looking at your time horizon, also looking at maybe where are you already allocating your resources, and are you investing in yourself to upskill? Because so much of like you are the cake. Like you are the most important investment you will ever make. And Warren Buffett has been quoted saying this all the time, and he has like $160 billion. And I like to take advice from people that maybe have the results that I want. And so he often says, like, recession proof is investing in yourself, upskilling yourself, gaining the skills. So anything that you're doing to really nurture and take care of yourself and upskill yourself will impact all areas. That's really the foundation. But then, of course, like how you're using your money into the investment vehicles. I think there's this shift that I sometimes see of this old money principles with new money and kind of like modern day to day. Especially for younger generations, what I would say is like it's so easy to get caught up in just being a consumer.
Yeah.
Your way to true wealth is being an owner. And so even if you start small, investing in something super simple that follows the S&P 500, like you have to become an owner in something, and then you can expand. But getting some expert advice where you feel like, I don't feel super comfortable in this, like you don't have to go at it alone. And I know that for me, when I first reached out to, earlier in my career, I reached out to a financial planner and they wouldn't see me. And I felt, because I didn't have enough in investable assets, and I felt so much shame.
I totally understand that. So are there resources or tips for women that, you know, if they're just starting out or if they were in a similar situation, how do you get past that?
Absolutely. Well, I have one financial advisor that I work with that she is aligned, female empowerment. She actually will see clients and just help make sure that they are like set up for success until they reach that minimum investable asset threshold. But free resources, there's so much out there. Like if you look on podcasts for, and of course, vet the credibility and licensure and background and filter it through your own internal guidance and trust. I know so much of what you believe in and with this brand is integrity and trust. So you have to sort of filter through like, is this true for me? Similar to what I did when I was at the doctor, like that's not true for me.
Right.
There's so much, if you even just Google financial literacy, the government has a website that you can use for retirement calculators, debt pay downs. I'm happy to share and we can put a link in the notes. But there's credentialized resources that are free. There's tons of amazing authors. I love a lot of the Tony Robbins work because he interviews some of the top investment advisors. And I've had the opportunity to go to 2 of his Wealth Mastery events where you do a deep dive into this and all around the psychology of wealth. So looking at your beliefs and then looking at, of course, your financial choices and strategy. And there's so much out there. So I would just say, like, take it one step at a time, because I think especially if you're already feeling overwhelmed, you have no time, you're super busy, you're taking care of everything else, you don't want to scan through a million different things. So just find like one person that you resonate with, one simple thing, and it's like focusing on one thing at a time because it's not a matter of like getting more information and more strategies. Like it's
we
really
don't need any more jargon or like some social media person yelling at you to invest your money.
Exactly. And that's why I'm not like going to tell you how to spend your money. It's like I'm just going to help bring clarity and confidence to maybe the choices that you want to make or maybe help you see options because of maybe your proximity that you haven't seen yet and that I've been able to kind of from like paying to play, because I believe in like paying for mentoring and paying for speed. Like I had done for many, many years, like all the podcasts, all the books, like those free courses or the $27, like there's a lot of value in that. But when you're also very busy and you want to, like there's value in paying for expertise and like a very honed in, like let me get to the root cause. It's like, what is that worth to you?
Right. It's a great segue into your program, The Wealth Designer, and the time piece, because you're not just looking at finances, you're looking at it holistically, which is so important, especially for women, because time is money, time is wealth, time is abundance, time is hard to come by. So tell me just a quick overview of the Wealth Designer and how you structure, which is so different from what I've seen out there, how you structure sort of looking at a woman's challenges and helping them structure their life.
Yeah, so the way that I really work with women is we first get really clear about like what's coming up for them like right now. And I have a framework through the Pink Sky Lifestyles, which is really all around like sometimes we outsource and think our life will be so happy someday when. And so I say pink sky because it's like that beautiful feeling when you look at a sunset and you see like such ease and freedom, or when you've had a really rough day and you just like know, okay, tomorrow's a new day. And so it's like seeing through a lens of possibility and really expanded awareness. And so often like what's coming up, like if there's like a little nudge, the women that I see are really called to move into like a new foundation and a new level. This is not like I want to just dip my toe in. This is like I want full scale elevate. I'm sick and tired of either X, or I'm feeling like my heart's desire and my heart's calling is like pulling me and I'm getting that whisper and it's now becoming loud.
So it's not necessarily for someone that's just like, I need to time block a few things on my calendar. It's a complete upheaval to change the direction of what you're doing to align with your values.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And yes, and it could be like, I know upheaval might sound scary. It could just be like a 1 millimeter shift.
Yeah.
But if you think about like, if you're just going in a straight path and you have all the strategies and all the information and then you get to that destination, you're like, this is all life has to offer. And I didn't even realize I didn't want to go there. I was totally unconscious and I wasn't aligned and I wasn't making choices of what I really wanted, or I thought like I can retire and then I'll be happy. And it's like you waste your whole life and you give up your health and your friends and your happiness.
Right.
So it doesn't have to be painful and it doesn't have to be hard. So the work that I do with my clients can be very simple, very clear. We hone in, we focus, it's super customized because it's to their specific energy system. So we combine, and I really have created this from my own experience of like money mindset and like just believe in yourself. Like that sounded so surface level to me. I was like, this isn't working.
Right.
And so yes, there's power in that, but getting really specific because we all have our own unique beliefs, the way that our systems, which is, you know, comprised of like our whole energy field, our physical body, our mindset. And so much of this can be like societal programming, can be passed on through our lineage, can be from our upbringing, can be through like how we've interpreted the world and meaning we've given to things from a childhood. It all gets like stored in our energy field. And so through like our conversations, I can get to like kind of the root of like what's the essence, what's underneath that of maybe like at this very moment of what's coming up. And so we get really clear and we do a whole bunch of exercises of really looking at like, so you can start to see for yourself and build that evidence of like, okay, what are the changes that I need to make? And we have 6 dimensions that we look at within this framework. And it's your mind, your physical body, your passion. So like, what is that heart's desire? Like, what are you super jazzed up about? Because that's not unique. And then often when we're looking at passion, we look at additional income generating opportunities as well. Of like, where can you just be in your unique ability and like in your joy that many of my clients do so effortlessly. Like I'm working with one client right now and she just naturally does this. And so we're working on the language of her business that will really resonate with other people and setting up like an easy cash flow generation way.
Awesome.
So in our passion, we're just like, how do we build that additional revenue stream? Then we look at our relationship. So we look at our relationship with money. We also look at our relationship with ourselves, like how are we treating ourselves? And then what's being reflected in our relationships with others. We also look at our environment because environment has such a big impact, meaning like where are we spending the most amount of time? Like our workplace, our physical home, the people that we're surrounding ourselves with. And then lastly, we look at really where are we being of service and what's the legacy we want to leave in this world. So it's a real deep dive, but it's not super time consuming. It's guided throughout the whole way. And it really gives the women that I'm working with such unshakable confidence in owning their finances and owning their worth that they leave feeling like, I wanted to leave that job, or I wanted to leave that relationship, or I really wanted to invest in this, or I really wanted to buy myself this. And they have the financial clarity and the confidence to do it.
Yeah, I love that. It's so great. So when you work with women and they're going off on their own, they now have the tools to sort of move towards their dreams. If they get derailed or it's a new life stage. They have a baby, they get a divorce, some major life moment. How do you help them get back on track?
Absolutely. Well, it's like I'm always available, but also in the work that we do together, it's really skill based, and we all need like a tune up, right? We all need that remembrance.
Always.
I know from my own experience of having a baby, your whole foundation and how you're spending your time is all unshakable. Like it's all like unsturdy, unshakable ground.
Yeah.
And so it's really like honing in, and sometimes it can just be once you've like actually developed this like neurocircuitry within your system of this like new way of being, and we actually like tap into that. So it's like we're training our body to actually feel like what does true wealth feel like, because we manifest what we believe and like the energy that we're omitting. And that is what like the female energies is very like receptive. It's not like let me do more.
Right.
It's like you're actually through this work, because you're so clear, you're tapping into the reticular activation system of your brain. That story many people have heard, like the red car. Then you see the red car everywhere when you're buying that. We're doing the same thing. So we're getting really clear on what you want, and clarity is power. So once we know that, so sometimes it can just be like a tune-up. It can just be like a regrounding. And often when we're going through something, we can't see it, because Tony Robbins always uses this analogy around like when you're inside the bottle, you can't see the label.
Yeah.
But by having a conversation with a skilled professional, and that could be anybody that you trust, they can often see something that you can't see.
Yeah. I love looking at it that way, because you're right. You can be just on this hamster wheel doing the same thing all the time. And until you seek out that help or a different perspective or multiple different perspectives from different lenses, you can't really get out of that cycle. Where do you think, time for women is so important? And we talk about this all the time as moms. Sometimes I just feel like a whirling dervish. I'm just going from one thing to the next. I sometimes don't feel like I'm going 100% for anything because I'm trying to split that time. What are just some simple tips that you can provide women starting today of like, here are a few things where you can assess your week and start to get a little bit clearer on how you're spending your time?
I love time optimization.
Yes.
You know this. This is
help.
So I think clarity is like a key piece of all this, right? Like we're running, right? We're doing so many things. A lot of it's just like we're off to the races. So if we can kind of just take a pause, get aligned, get clear. So a very simple way to do this is the night before, I always will look at my schedule. Using your calendar as a tool, this is just basic kind of time optimization principles, but blocking time for you to actually have like a moment to maybe go for a walk, like build in your health rituals or like lunch or maybe a midday meditation block, because time will fill with what you allow.
I'm just laughing because I'm thinking about, block. I need to block time for myself to go to the bathroom when my kids are not around so they're not sitting on my lap.
For sure. But I totally get it. When you don't even have like a second to breathe. And one thing that we've been thinking about is like, how do we get more childcare for not just working hours? How do we get more childcare so like we have some space to breathe? So like daily, the night before you're kind of like off to the races, taking a peek, almost like rehearsing in your mind a little bit, like how am I going to flow throughout the day? You know, what are like the big rock things? Your mind's always working. So like questions is a really powerful tool, and like opening up to the possibilities around like how could tomorrow even go even easier? How could this even be more fluid and joyful? Also at the end of the week, I love to do a reflection. So I like to think about what were all the joyful moments. I call them magical moments. What were the magical moments? Because I'm training my brain to look at what was right about the week versus like living in the gap. Versus living at like, these were all the things that I wanted to do that I didn't do. But like, what did I get done? Because this is actually building up confidence within yourself and evidence for your brain. You kind of then want to bypass the mind and the brain that's like the naysayer of like, you didn't do enough, the mean girl, like the inner critic, which we all have. So it's like, you're like, no. If you sat down and wrote down everything you did for the week, you'd have like a whole book. But you probably don't give yourself a pat on the back.
No, because it typically is like, what text did go unanswered? Like, how many emails didn't I get to? Or oh gosh, did I spend enough time with the kids today and, prepare a cool lunch and all that stuff? I feel like I definitely focus on that.
And so easy. I do too. And it's like, it takes that conscious choice to be like, okay, well, Kat, look at how amazing your kids felt with your presence in the morning, having that couple extra minutes of how that started their whole day. And like, was the lunch, we kind of have to let ourselves off the hook a little bit, right? Or all the things you did do, that you bought your husband floss and underwear and, whatever.
I mean, God bless it, the underwear. So how do you take those negatives then and put that back at the top of the funnel into your planning stage? So if like I don't get to these certain things consistently, when you're helping women manage that time, how do you filter that in? Like, do you time block emails? How do you work through that?
Yeah. Thanks for bringing me back to like the more tactics and tangible. Definitely. So in your weekly review, you're looking at, and you really are focusing on like, what were the outputs? Not the nitty gritty, like we can get so caught in the tasks, but like, what was my outcome that I wanted? What was my goal? Did you define your goal? Like, again, that clarity is power. So then are we then chunking it down? Like, what were the time-based things in order to move towards that goal that I needed to do this week? What's remaining? And then, yes, time blocking. And I like to use the Eisenhower matrix, which really talks about like, where are we spending our time, and noticing like, are we just constantly in like a response to like a fire drill of like really non-important things that maybe are urgent? Because we really want to try to move our time into alignment with the things that matter towards our personal goals and values and priorities. But in those things that we're being proactive with, so it's kind of like the lower quadrant that really talks about this is important, but it's non-urgent.
Right.
So that's where the time blocks come in. And so I do kind of like a night before, take a peek at the day. I do an end of the week. My husband and I do a weekly connect, and we sync up childcare, the logistical items, all that sort of stuff. And then usually every couple weeks we'll do like a month like review to really, that's like where that intentional design comes in, because it's like, who do we want to see? Because if you're not like proactive, if you're just going through the day to day, weeks just go by.
Right.
And
you're like, I'm so busy. What are you doing? What are we doing?
Right. And it can feel so empty if we're not doing, if it's not like in truly a portfolio sort of view in all dimensions. If like for many years, I was just so focused on work that it's like, and it's always like this juggling act of all the balls, right? I don't really believe in like a balance of like the scale that everything's perfect. It's always like which ball am I juggling? What's the priority this week? And the number one thing is like really focusing on what matters. And I think sometimes it's just catching yourself. If you catch yourself being like, wow, I'm wasting like a lot of my energy consumed in this thing that really, is this going to impact my life in 5 minutes? There's that like that
right
question,
or can you outsource it
exactly
somehow?
That's another key piece, like knowing that just because you may have clarity over all the areas that need to get done, I think sometimes as women we have this guilt around like, well, I have to do it all, but like women that are doing it all have a lot of assistance. And knowing that it's worth your time to sometimes pay somebody else to do it if you're not in your unique ability and your inner genius. Like, I don't love to go grocery shopping, so I outsource my grocery shopping. I outsource my meal prep. I love to eat healthy, but right now I'm in, this very growth phase in my life. And so it's like, where can I create a little extra capacity so that I can be more present with myself, my son, and my husband, and my friends and family?
It's like, where is that buffer for you? And I would imagine also it's on the flip side of like, where are those boundaries as well with relationships, with like, no, we're not going to go see my parents this weekend or whatever it is, like carving out those parameters, not only with what you're going to do, but like creating those guardrails around time, safety, all of that.
Absolutely.
Do you see the same common pitfalls with women in terms of like when they start to do this on their own without your guidance, for example? Are there any similarities there?
Yes. Well, I think women are kind of conditioned, and again, I don't think there's no like fault in any of this. But when we become aware, we can take responsibility and say, I'm going to make a different choice. I think us as women, we've been conditioned to be like martyrs and to be caregivers and to overextend. And we don't honor ourselves in the equation, and we often will maybe say yes when we mean no in an effort because we might want to people please,
Yeah.
or we may not want to disappoint anyone else. So in my own personal story, as I was like working 80 hours a week, it was like I did not want any of my relationships to suffer because I wanted to be that go-to person for my relationships. But it was at the expense of my health, and through many different experiences, I kind of learned that that quote we often hear of like, you can't give from an empty cup, that became very, very true to me. I was like so desperate to want to like add value and make an impact. But it was like, I needed to take care of myself first, because how can we take care of anyone else, especially now as a mom? How can we take care of anyone else if we're not prioritizing our own needs? And our needs also include beyond, like, health is the baseline, but it also includes our joy, our passions, our friends, our intimacy. Those are all very valid, and that then feeds the whole system. So that's like a multiplier then in our life and our energy and our vitality. And that to me is what then really helps you live in true wealth and joy. But we are so conditioned to, oh, that's too much. Or, oh, I won't say anything. I'll put my needs aside. But then what we end up doing is we like lose integrity with ourselves, and that diminishes our confidence, and then we kind of shut down.
Right. And we all do it to some extent. So I was just talking to Sarah Raggi for our podcast on nutrition, and, you know, actually looking at myself, she was like, oh, well, you know, what's your day-to-day like? And I was like, I am feeling so energized, but I don't carve out time in the day for myself to eat. Like basic nutrition, basic nourishment for myself, where I was sacrificing that because I had other things that I was prioritizing. So, and I think that's a lot of women. So when we go back to the optimizing piece and outsourcing, what's your thought on AI and all of these tools now that are being marketed to women as like, you know, let us arrange your entire week? Like, what's your gut on that?
Yeah, well, I think it's a great tool. AI is here to stay, and AI is going to transform. I mean, it already has, right? But it's transforming our life similar to like electricity did for us. I absolutely think AI has a place, and I would say it's a tool. Similar to like our phones are a tool. There's MIT has released a study on AI also diminishing some of our brain capacity and creative thinking. And I think especially if you're a visionary woman and a creator, which all of us are, it's using it as a tool. It has its place to gain efficiencies, spark some new ideas, so we're not starting maybe with a blank sheet of paper, but of course vetting it, looking at it, filtering it through your own lens. You bring your own consciousness and your own unique perspective to it. So I love AI for communication because it helps me just maybe like synthesize my thoughts a little bit differently. I've also plugged in like some meal planning ideas. So on that, like food is definitely an area growing up, like I'm Italian, so food is love. And I often don't also prioritize, like block out eating a meal, even though I have
you don't think about it. You don't say like, to my point of going to the bathroom earlier, like you don't think about that. Okay, even just 15 minutes to sit down to your food, have an actual meal. You're right.
Absolutely. So it's like, please do not mistake, I'm a human being and I am not perfect at this at all. And I'm learning every day and tweaking. And so it's like when we become aware like of that, it's like these slight tweaks. I think that's why maybe I responded to the upheaval, because it's like really transformation happens through like the one incremental step. And we don't even notice that it's happening and that's, I think, what, especially for women that want to have more of like a even keel without this like, send us in like shock and overload. It's like your daily action. But yes, I think AI can be an amazing tool, but remember, it's a tool. Remember, you're the value, you're the power, that like we are powerful creators, and AI can definitely help with time, things that maybe have taken like hours, you could do it in 5 minutes. But just know its place.
Yeah.
I think with everything, it's like let's not over rotate on any one thing. I think it can be very addictive, and you can go down like a rabbit hole with it. So just like zooming out and before even maybe jumping in, it's kind of like getting clear on like what's my intention with what do I want to create, what do I need this for,
Right.
what's the outcome that I want. Always keeping like very clear on your target, then I think you'll get a better result.
Yeah, we are always talking about lived experience, and you can't get lived experience from AI.
Right.
It's a wonderful tool in your toolbox, but someone like you who is able to have a hands-on approach that is, the human connection, there's so much to be said about this mom-to-mom conversation where you're like, actually, for me, this really worked. It may not work for you, but here's a strategy that worked because I had, this type of challenge. Again, that storytelling piece, I think that relational component that still is missing with AI, women just need to keep that in mind as we're like being fed, again, all of this marketing from, 50 AI brands that are coming out.
I could not agree more, and so much of the information is basically assuming that women are not whole and complete as they are. So much of what we're marketed is like that you are not beautiful, you are not acceptable as you are, you need to be fixed, you need this manipulation. So there's so much in the marketing that basically is not coming from a place of like, there's nothing that needs to be fixed.
Well, I might have a few things, but
not to say we can't improve and enhance.
Yeah.
And for our own personal desires, right? And we've talked about different like choices that we wanted to make, and I've shared personally with you. And it's all only you know. Like when you look in the mirror and you look at yourself, like I think we all only know like the depth of that, of like this choice is going to actually make me happier.
Yeah.
And you have to trust that.
The intuition. I have one final question before our quick round, and it sort of marries the thought of women's health. We are talking about longevity, ways to extend our lives. We are outliving men as it is, but not in a healthy way. We have dementia, Alzheimer's, heart disease. So many women are living out their lasting days in a nursing home or under care, and we obviously are aiming to change that with GenWell and supporting generational wealth in the WELLTH realm, similar to yours. But there was an amazing article that I shared with you on Forbes about women's longevity, and we're now being ill-prepared for what life has to offer because we're outliving men. We don't have the resources in place from a financial perspective. And I'm also wondering from your wealth designing aspect of, how can women prepare to make sure that you're getting a full life in that time frame, a healthy life. So would just love your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I thought that article was spot on and really, really fascinating. And I know I had shared this just through the lived experiences and storytelling and conversations. I've recently been able to have access to like amazing women that are in their late 70s to late 80s. And so to really hear from them what was reflected in that article around I was not well prepared for my finances, and I have outlived my husband, and I now have had to make different choices, or I'm so glad I was involved in this choice. Just hearing sort of like the wisdom that is often whispered and passed on between women that you can't find in AI, you can't Google. It's through, as you've said, like the storytelling and the passing on that truly does change our generations. And so I think it's first joining the conversation. I think at the root cause, it's because of some of this like mainstream girl math. Oh, finances are so complex, or women don't need to be involved in that conversation, or our financial advisor has it, or my husband, or boom, boom, boom.
Or just like you throw it in whatever, your 401k, and then you never look at where it's being allocated.
Exactly.
Because it's so easy to do that.
Oh, right. And there's definitely power in like setting up systems and automations and set it and forget it kind of quote and, take a peek at it. But absolutely, it's like, I think fundamentally the work that I'm really passionate about is helping women really feel that empowerment to know that it doesn't have to be complex, that they do have a seat at the table, and they need to own their finances. So I often say, like, helping women be the CFO of their own lives, because you want to be involved in those conversations, because especially as we are outliving, could be living till 120 with the advancements in healthcare and technology, and that's amazing.
Knock on wood.
Yes. So we want to be able to, healthfully, totally. We want to be able to really enjoy, and in those later years. So it's really simple questions of even just more practical, like, are you on all the accounts? Do you have access to all of the accounts?
Baseline, right.
And do you know where all of the accounts sit? Do you know the contact information of your insurance provider? Do you have, like, an estate set up? And do you have, what are your health insurance needs? So, like, the very practical sort of components, like, have you planned in your retirement of the really operating cash that you need? Like, have you questioned the assumptions of the return, or of how long you think you might live? Like, is maybe your financial advisor maybe only projecting you're only going to live till 80, and you're like, no, I'm so healthy, and I'm setting the intention, I'm going to live till 100. So, like, let's think past that so we can make some new choices today.
Yeah, I love that, because it's the parallels. Like, telling your financial advisor, hey, this is my longevity plan. This is what I'm aiming for my life, to have a full life, to have health, to have well-being. And it should correspond.
And that's the mirroring of the lifestyle design and the finances. Finance is a tool. And so to your point on, like, how do you actually enjoy, then you don't want to live a long life and not be healthy, right? But it's like, we all need a compelling future. We all need something really hopeful to live for, and to have, like, a vision that we're working towards. There's so much of us in the human experience of, like, this pursuit. But it's also, like, being really present in the now and enjoying the now moment, because that's really all we have. And so it's like, if, say, I died tomorrow, being able to know, like, did the people in my life know that they were so loved? And did I give it my all? Or did I sit, like, at the end of 80 years old and think, like, I had more gas in the tank to give? Like, and that's the generational wealth of, like, what are the behaviors and the legacy that you're leaving on, and using finances really as that, like, quiet influence for the things that truly matter to you. And it doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be boastful. Nobody even needs to know about it. But it's through your actions. It doesn't need to even be finances. It could be of your time. It could be of a conversation, a smile that you give to someone. It could be a huge philanthropic gift to an organization that you care about. It could be setting up your children through financial awareness and literacy. There's so many different ways that you can really be leaving your legacy with finances, really as that tool and that enabler to live a beautiful life. Of course, going on amazing trips, like feeling like you have access to all the health care, joining whatever sort of, like, clubs and activities, because there's so much research around, like, brain health, and going for a walk with your friend and talking about your problems, like, in your 80s. Like, that keeps you young and vibrant and alive, and having that wonder and curiosity and learning. So of course you need money to do that. So making sure you're setting up the choices in your plan to give you that, and setting the intention of, like, I'm going to live a really full, beautiful life.
I love that. Is that where your idea for Wealth Whispers came from? Can you talk just quickly about that?
Well, I think it's like we all have these little, like, hits intuitively, and it's like a little whisper. And sometimes I think we don't really listen to it, but then when it's, like, so busy. But then when you get in, like, a little bit of stillness, or you start to train yourself, like, oh, I received this little insight. Like, that, I believe, is coming from, like a source beyond yourself. It's from, like, the source that kind of created all of us. And I have started to trust that. And I think the more you make choices aligned with that whisper of what feels true to you, and you start to see results, you then build up that evidence. Like, just a real quick story was, like, over COVID, I kept getting this whisper of a certain town. And I was like, and I had this vision of buying a beach home. And it was like, in my life, all this stuff going on, you would say, logically, it's not the best time, whatever, you know, the world is shut down, we're in fear, we're in whatever. I keep hearing this, like, town, and I'm like, what is this? Like, just internally when I say here. And I was vacationing there, met a real estate agent, went and looked at a property, sort of, like, let it go, not the best time. She then came back to me and said, I found the perfect home for you. And I ended up buying it. And it's like done significantly well in the market.
Oh
and
my
I looked at the
gosh.
trajectory of the line.
Yeah.
So not only was it like quasi rental
Yeah.
property, cash generating, but also a beautiful sanctuary for my family to enjoy and for other families to enjoy and bring their children, and we're make it pet friendly so people could bring their dogs,
Cool.
and like in the guest book and the reviews,
Yeah.
like it brings me so much joy to see families enjoy this beautiful space that I've like poured my heart into. I call it Pink Sky, as like a sanctuary by the
Oh,
sea.
cool.
But the confidence that you get from trusting these little whispers that I've never shared that story. So
I love
you
it.
pulled it out.
No,
but
I love it. I was like, I didn't get an invite to a beach house. Like, where is that?
it's coming. Well, it's so I think it's like sometimes it's like we all know those things or those trends we see, especially as visionary women. We see these things and trends before they're really mainstream. And there's so much of like, if you're going to create something new and you wait for all the evidence
Yeah.
and all the proof, you're already past.
And for it to be perfect.
And for it
It's
to be
better to be
perfect.
done, just get it out via versus being perfect. Yeah.
Exactly. And so like what you've done of like seeing the trends, seeing like listening to the whispers and creating from that intuition and kind of knowing
Yeah.
like women want this.
Yeah.
And so I think as we all start to kind of hone that skill and hear other stories, we then are like, oh, that's the breadcrumb. Oh, that makes sense. You start to connect the dots around your own lived experiences in life and the lessons and maybe why certain things have happened. And it's like, whoa, it blows your mind.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. And I'm also thinking of how I manifest a whisper of a beach house for myself.
We'll do a private class on that.
All right. Just whisper it right now. Nantucket.
For sure.
Okay, so our quick fire round.
Yes.
What's one wellness trend that you have actually leaned into that you've seen on social media?
Oh, okay, so this one's a little unique. Developing a personal brand, because this is so outside of like
Yeah.
the area that I've been in, but
Yeah.
I view that as a wellness area because it's so much expression and there's so many women now monetizing a personal brand, and let's just call it what it is, right? But you see on social media now there's a lot of women talking about you could maybe have a large following, but do you have like the monetization structure in the background to actually like earn money by doing it? And so that's something I'm just a little bit captivated by.
Yeah.
But one from many years ago is really how I got introduced to emotional freedom technique, like the tapping. So I do find like dipping in and out of social media is really cool to just be able to see like, you know,
Yeah.
what's everyone thinking about?
We might have to do like a reel or something on tapping so you can share with the audience, because I think that would be really cool.
I'd love to.
Help them tap into their physical. What's your favorite personal care product right now?
Oh, I love sound frequencies.
Oh, like the hearse frequency?
Yes.
Is there a certain frequency that you go to at bed or to wind down?
I play with all different ones, but they really can impact. So similar like Beethoven and classical music, of how they've studied that for so long around like studying,
Yeah.
and it gets into like your brain patterning. And when we drop into different brain levels, we can access that frequency that I was talking about. You can access different information that's in our field. And so I find that like grounding, also I use the higher dose like PEMF mat
Yeah.
is also really great.
Yeah.
But that all taps into kind of our brain waves. And so sometimes I'll listen to like gamma brain waves is more for like creativity. You can also do, there's like fear liberation. They have it on Spotify, YouTube.
Oh, okay,
There's
interesting.
different brain kind of frequencies, or Insight Timer is another like meditation tool that has music. Any of that sort of like sound healing, frequency music, I'm really, really fascinated with.
Oh, I love that. We have to dive in there. Last thing you Googled.
Oh, probably something for Thomas or our house. We're in the process of redecorating.
Amazing.
So probably, yeah.
I love it. Podcast, book, or resource that you would like to recommend to women?
Oh, a great place that I recommend starting is Dr. Kim Duramo's book, Be Your Own Healer.
Okay.
So I'm trained by Dr. Kim Duramo. She was a former ER physician from Massachusetts, and she has a podcast, an amazing mind-body community. She offers so much value that is accessible. I've also done her mentoring program and her practitioner program. And so just so much great content around really like tuning into our own intuition. And she's just an amazing embodiment of like a wealthy woman and someone that has really taken like the medical science with lived experience and this her unique ability. So
awesome.
Yeah, plug to Kim.
Great. We might have to bookshop that as well. So before we go, where can people find you and your amazing The Wealth Designer program?
So you can find me at thewealthdesigner.com. I'm also on Instagram as The Wealth Designer, and all my contact information is there. Would love to connect with you, and if I could ever be of any assistance, would love to connect. I will be starting to host community calls, complimentary, where I'll be featuring like women of wealth and women sharing their personal stories, as well as with some of these more practical strategies and tools. But hearing about like how can it actually be applied? Because in a world where there's so much information, it's like really cutting through that noise and getting to the root of like, this is what matters, keep it super simple, and hearing some like of the why. Like, do this because it will get you this result. And then you can determine for yourself, is that the result I want? Do I resonate with that or not?
Yeah.
Not just like a random strategy or information.
Right.
We'll be doing that.
You're teeing them up for success by empowering them with the tools to make their own decisions.
Exactly.
I love it. You are a wealth of knowledge. I had to. No, you are so wonderful. Thank you for being here. I think there are so many amazing takeaways from this conversation, and we'll definitely have to dive into some more. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, Kat. This was so much fun.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.